Okay. So I'd like to go ahead and open January 25th, 2022, Littleton Conservation Commission, and we will go ahead and start with approval of the minutes from January 11th. Do we have any comments or omissions or corrections to the minutes? They were brief.
Yeah.
They were. I just had a few editorial things that I passed along.
That you passed them along. Okay, great.
And I just had a couple of very minor things that Kyle, you probably already got, but 628 Newtown Road, it just says the applicant wasn't repent.
Right.
And then 15 Douglas Road.
Penitent? No, present.
Yeah. And then 15 Douglas Road, he had put in erosion control blanket as requests, and you just need the ED requested.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if we don't have any other edits, would someone like to make a motion to accept the minutes of January 11th?
I'll make a motion that we vote to approve the meeting minutes of January 11th as amended.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, awesome. Carl, will you do us the honor of roll call?
Certainly. Cal Melberg, aye. Andrew Samarco.
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't at the last meeting.
Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Chase Gerbig.
Just do it.
Alex, put your.
Oh, Alex is in trouble.
All right, we got Chase's aye. Yeah, and Sarah Seward aye. Okay, so that vote is unanimous with one present, with Brian. Okay, great. Does anyone have anything they would like to add to administrative discussions? I have two things. One, to see if anybody happened to swing over to Cooper to check on the basins. And then another is to remind the commissioners that Amy is taking a well-deserved vacation. Will not be on the February 8th meeting, and she'll be away the week of the 7th through 15th. So anybody have anything they'd like to add?
I just had a question about the potential work progress on one of the sites down here on Mill Road.
Okay.
Yeah, the Farley lumber. But.
So I'll add that on Mill. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and begin annual report, final comments. I know some of us have sent those in. If anybody has not sent them in, do you have any other words of wisdom? I appreciate Amy doing all that heavy lifting on that as well. Amy, you've received some comments now. Feel like you're in a good place?
Yeah, so I'm going to add Anna's retirement, her 8 years of service onto there, and that we dedicated one of the trails at Oak Hill to Jim. And I don't think I got any other comments. So if anybody has anything,
I
maybe
sent
let me
over
know.
something just before the meeting, but nothing crazy.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
It looks great otherwise.
Okay. Super. Let's go with that then. Awesome. Continued request for certificate of compliance 3 Westchester 204-890.
Yeah, I went out there and it's actually been ready for a little while. I just waiting for Kyle to drop off the check, actually. But they got it all squared away.
Okay, and you had payment and we're all good to vote.
Yes, we all, and this is the one next to 331 Goldsmith.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion, please, on 3 Westchester?
I will move that we close the public hearing and issue a certificate of compliance for 3 Westchester Drive, Mass DEP number 204-890.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Anyone want to second that?
Second up.
Okay, seconded by Chase, and we'll do a roll call.
Carl Melberg, aye. Sarah Seward.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Brian Crowley.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Andrew Samarco.
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Chase Gerbig.
Chris Gerbig, aye.
Okay, so we are all good with that. Next on comments is request for certificate of compliance 267 King Street, which is 204-358. Amy, I think you've already walked this, and this one good to go as well?
Yep, that's an oldie but goodie. They're just cleaning up the title.
Okay, fantastic. Those are the ones we want. Okay, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
second,
Okay. Well, Carl, if you want to do all those in favor, roll call.
yep, Carl Melberg, aye, Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Kyle Maxfield,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Ryan Crowley, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Chase Grubig,
Chris Gerbeck, aye.
unanimous.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, let's scoot over. Anyone have a chance to see Cooper Basin?
I did not.
Yep, if anybody has a chance prior to, I think we're gonna get another storm on Friday, just kind of hop over. I think that would be great. Okay, Amy vacation, I think that's, if there's, I know we've already started to get postings done for that meeting. Just go ahead and give us any updates that we need right before you leave, and we wish you a happy vacation.
You?
Let's see. So we got a question on Kyle. I think this is your question on Mill Road.
Yeah, I figured it's like 98 or something. The old Parley Lumber. I know they came in and were looking to do septic work there, and then they changed their mind. It seems like it has that potential to be one of these sites that just gets left and not touched for a while. And I've seen equipment parked by the river. I've seen trailers parked and stuff moved around. There's stockpiles of sand, soil everywhere. I just don't want it to get lost, because they do actively move stuff around there. I just don't know if they're performing what they said they were going to be doing. I haven't seen any utility work being performed, at least.
Amy, if you get a chance, you want to just
Yeah.
reach out and just ask for maybe just an update, and
Yeah.
they can just submit something, email, whatever's best for you.
Yep.
Okay,
We'll do that tomorrow.
thank you. We still have a few minutes. Our first hearing does not start till 7:45. So we have a few more minutes. Amy, any other updates or anything that we can help with going forward?
I was telling Sarah I pressed send to submit that Mass Trails grant for what we're calling the Balsam Trails over on Balsam Road. And I didn't get a receipt acknowledgement, so I'm gonna have to call back and make sure that they actually got it, but that's in. Andrew and I and Rick Finley are gonna be meeting with Sudbury Valley trustees because they're helping us pull together an invasive species management plan. They did a huge effort of mapping to show priority parcels based on endangered species, aquifers, stuff like that, which is, it's really nice. It's got great maps. Some of it I think is a little wrong or mislabeled, but I'm not sure if that report is worth finalizing and spending a lot of time on it, keeping as draft, and we still use it as a guiding for that. But hopefully they can get us moving for this spring to try to organize something.
And is that outline on both conservation property and trust property?
That was, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it might have identified a private parcel or two, but didn't put them in the prioritization list.
Do we want, I know that we mentioned in the annual report, is there something that we'd like to do on the website or something in terms of associates, encouraging to try and find some new associate members? Anybody have any thoughts? I'm not so sure where we put that.
So we could always have the selectman's office or select board's office rather do a posting and see if anybody's interested in applying.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll see, because, they have regular announcements going out with, vacancies, and while these aren't necessarily a vacancy per se, it's good to have. I mean, Matt was a fantastic associate and he showed up all the time. I was an associate once, and I was like, forget this. It was too much work and no voting. I'm like, no, I'm out. So yeah, it can be tough. And Matt really provided a lot of good stuff for us.
Right.
As did Anna when she was a temporary associate.
Anyone else have any updates or fun places they've walked around town?
Oh, I did have one minor thing, which I put in my stewardship report for the year for Long Lake Park. But as you're pulling into the parking lot on Harwood Avenue for Long Lake Park, there's a big, huge crater that just needs to be filled. And I don't know if maybe Highway could help us out with that. I was considering going to get gravel and just throwing it in, but it's huge. It would take
It's
like
big. It's big. It is on their list, as is the Hartwell parking lot, which is having a little erosion problem. Suddenly drainage is coming off the road. So it is on their list. And, you know, every time Steve sees me, he says, I know. I've been bugging them, but yeah, that crater is pretty bad.
Oh, it's terrible.
And I think especially if it gets filled with a little bit of snow and you don't see it ahead of time.
I forget it's there and I pull in and I'm like, bang. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Well, I'm continuing to try to come up with a list, almost a wish list or to-do list for all the open space stuff and prioritize them and all that stuff. But, you know, making the list is one thing, actually getting the work done is something entirely different. But we're beating away at it.
The list is halfway there, right? It's half the process.
Yep. And Alyssa Russell is doing, she's trying to get someone to help her. I don't think anyone's volunteered, looking at the blazes on all the trails and seeing what, if anything, might need help there. So yeah, every now and then you get someone with a lot of energy tackling this stuff. So it's not all the Jim and Rick show on some of these things.
Amy, do all the conservation lands have one of those nice signs now?
No, there's still some that don't. It's pretty close. I mean, I actually have the sign for Yap. It's not put up yet. Just having a hard time getting the posts made and then actually installed. And then, so that's almost done. None of the Oak Hill signs are up yet. Well, actually the one on Harvard Road is up. I've got two more that we can hang at some point. And we're trying to figure out where our next kiosks could be. I think Brown's Woods can get one, and Historical will have, it'll be two-sided because Historical will have one side of it. And my understanding is SVT is going to build and pay for that. And for the Balsam Trail, I put a kiosk in that grant also. But I was going back and forth that maybe some of these, you know, maybe Mary Shepherd or something could use a smaller boardwalk. They don't need the full thing. If anyone's been up to Hartwell, you'll notice the roof is not on the Hartwell kiosk yet because it's so heavy. And it's high. I want nothing to do with that thing over my head. It's going to take at least six people to lift it up. So I think Sam Bell said he might be able to use a piece of equipment to help lift it. But they're hard to install. It takes a lot. And I'm also, I think, to go along with what Alyssa Russell is doing, is reactivating my list of trail wayfinding signs, like, you know, 2 Boxborough Road. And it's a good winter project to route them out this winter and start painting them up and try to get them up.
Okay, let's go ahead and open public hearing notice of intent 1 Sawyer Lane, map DEP 204-951, R14-9-0, construction of a deck and a shed. So I understand the owner is joining us. So please note that there's some history that some people may know this. It was before us back a few years ago as well. Okay.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Yeah. Hi. So this was a house I constructed I got the occupancy in 2016. So the history is, the house construction kind of got delayed, and because I had a contractor who didn't do well, so then I took over as a general contractor, and I was allowed to, get the house constructed. But because of the time crunch, we punted on the decks at that time because I had to get into the house. So it was agreed between the building commissioner of that time and myself that, we would build the decks at a future date. So that future date came now, and I did file my contractor, filed the permit, and we were told that we have to take this to conservation, commission again, and that's why we are here. So I have a presentation prepared to kind of have you guys go through this quickly and easily. I have submitted papers, and this is a presentation from those pictures. Let me just see. So let me just put a slideshow here. Are you able to?
If I may, just as a point of order, can we understand the time frame to which your permit previously expired?
I was given an occupancy in 2016, so the permit might have I didn't keep track of it, so it must have expired. Is it 1 year after that, 2 years after that? I don't know. Maybe around that time.
The original order conditions for 204-739, I believe it was issued in 2014, so it would have expired in 2017. And
yeah,
the owner came in for
I kind of had a lot.
If I just finish that, the owner came in for an amendment
Sure.
in 2015, but that did not extend the expiration date.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Carry on.
Yeah, I was not aware of those deadlines, and I kind of, as a homeowner, had a lot to, a handful. I just had to do my landscaping and other things. So, and somehow I couldn't get a good contractor to do it, but it turned out at this time I had a good contractor who seems to be a good person. He will do it, and hence we kind of started it. So let me try to explain the pictures that I have here quickly. I will present screen 2, share my screen 2. And this is a small presentation I made. Yeah, can everyone see this diagram?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so here is my site plan. I'll use a laser pointer. Here is a site plan that I was submitted also at that time. And this is the exact position of the house as you see here. And I have these 3 ovals here, right? The green oval, the blue oval, and this yellow oval. So let's go to the decks first. So the green oval shows the deck as it was, the proposed deck at that time. And the blue oval shows the deck on the other side. And it's in the next slide, that details of these decks. But let's go, let me just zoom in here quickly. Hold on, I just have to change my pointer to the zoom tool. Give me a second. Yeah. Yeah, if you see this, I think should be visible. This is proposed decks on sonotubes, right? It's a wraparound deck. Let me just go back. Yeah, if I go back to the pointer, I will lose this zoom in. So there's this proposed deck. So instead of this whole wraparound deck, we are just doing this, what the portion that's called cover deck. It is this. It's a 7 feet wide. It's a 7 feet deep, and I think 14 feet wide. It's 14 by 7. You'll see it on the plan. So that's all I propose. That's all I want to build now. Means this whole big thing that has the ladders and the stairs and the proposed deck on sonotubes, that's going away. And also, we're not using sonotubes. We are using helical piles, which does not need any digging at all. And this is well within that. You see the what do you call the straw, the construction boundary that was at that time. This is well within that. So, and I have preserved that, with logs, and I have not, this is still a distinct area from rest of my landscaping. I have grass on this, all my land, but the wetland stands as it is, away. And there's a whole row of logs, and you can do a walkthrough and see that. So this is what I'm proposing for this deck right now. We just want to do the cover deck. And I need to do that because I have a bedroom here, which has like a sliding door, and that was designed with this view that we would have a deck. But as such, I reduced the deck as well. So no more sonotubes also, only 3 helical piles that will hold the cover deck. Okay. And then the other deck was here, you'll see in the next drawing. So this was a site map at that time, presented before the septic was built. After the septic was built, if you see the as-built of the septic tank is far away here. So there's ample room to have that deck. And that deck was proposed in the house drawings that you will see in the next slide. Let's go to that yellow oval later.
I'm sorry, could you explain that again? Something about did I understand the septic tank is not where it's pictured there?
Yeah, I mean, this is, okay. This is the drawing that was, this is not the as-built, right? This was the, drawing that was proposed before the house was built. But the septic got built and the tank is, it was, it's inspected by the, by NASHOBA, Health Commission, everything is fine, it's away from it. So, we can easily have a deck here. So that's what I was trying to say.
May I ask a question? Can we go back to the green circle and please make reference where the wetlands boundary is, your 100-foot and your 50-foot line, please?
Oh yeah, sure, I should have done that. So this is probably the 50-foot line. Yeah, I think this is the 50. So this is the 25-foot boundary, I believe, and this is the 50-foot boundary. I think let's zoom in to see if it's really the 50-foot. Yep, that is the 50-foot boundary, and that's the 25-foot boundary. That's a 25-foot boundary, and that's the 50-foot boundary. The 50-foot boundary goes like this, and it kind of crosses the road, and it's just shy of this road. That's where it ends. So this is where I thought of proposing the deck. Again, deck is not an important. Sorry, I mean the shed is not an important thing. I can locate it some other place also, but it just seemed that it might tuck in nicely in this area here. My concern is mainly the decks because my house is incomplete.
So if I can just remind the commission that this original house was built prior to the new wetlands bylaw.
Yeah, I was not aware of that. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and definitely, by my own thoughts, I didn't want to build a build deck here, next to the wetlands. I reduced it. It's a small deck anyways, and I won't even use any sonotubes. Sonotubes need digging. The helical piles don't need digging. It's a machine that puts a screw down in, and it's usually liked, for conservation purposes also because it doesn't disturb the land at all. So should I move on to the next slide to show you the plans?
Oh,
Yes, please.
I just have one question.
Yep, sure.
Within the green circle, is there anything existing right now? Are there any structures at all from what was provided?
No. The green circle?
Yeah, the green circle.
The green oval? No, nothing. It's just a house only. I just have the house. I don't have any deck here. It's a lawn out here, and it's a backyard. No, I had a smaller backyard. There was one more reason. I just punted on this. I didn't want to build a big deck here. So we're scaling it down by a significant amount than what was originally, we had planned to do. And and if I don't do this as a deck board, ledger board sticking out, which looks ugly, and there's this window in the middle of nowhere. So, so it would be nice if I have this deck built here.
Okay.
Okay, and the blue is, you will see in the next one. Let me just go to the next slide. So these are the original house plans that were submitted. And, the black dotted line is the outline of the house. I didn't kind of follow the bay window here or the breakfast nook here. Let me just go back to the other pointer. Yeah, this is a breakfast nook out, and I didn't follow that with this dotted line. So I just made this slide. So the green oval that we're seeing, the outline was this, the dotted green that you see. So out of that dotted green only, I'm just proposing to build this, which is shaded blue. So this whole thing here, if I highlighted this whole thing here will not be built at all. This is just X'd out here. So just this blue portion makes it clear. And on this side, there's a deck. I'm proposing to build a deck, and that is the dimensions are 12 by 14. It is 14 wide, and it's 12 deep. Its lower level is 12 deep, upper level is 14. It cantilevers out a little. You'll see it in the perspective drawing on the next slide. So neither of these was built at all. So it's question, what is right here is just lawn. On this side is also, lawn, although we have a septic mount here that goes this way. But, as far as the building, we have the permits. It went through the building department and Nashoba Board of Health. Jim Graffy looked at it and he's fine. And he is the one who kind of recommended use helical piles, which I will use here as well as here. No digging at all. 3 helical piles. You'll see in the next drawing, where I have the plans. Any questions on this?
Where does the blue deck lie in relation to the 50 and 100 foot wetland lines?
The blue deck in relation to the 50?
I'm sorry, the other one, the dashed blue on the other side of the house.
The dash, this is very far. The blue, the 50-foot line runs like this. If you saw it there, yeah, this is within the 50. This one is within the 50-foot line, and the 50-foot line runs. Let me just move my cursor. Something like this. Here is. Would you mind flipping to the previous page? I think it'll be clear on there. Sure. If you see this is the 50-foot line. Yeah, here. Yeah, that's the 50-foot line. It goes. I'm just traversing that.
And you probably show the 100-foot line also.
The 100-foot line is here. Yeah, the 100-foot line is here. Yeah, like that. So that the 100-foot line kind of, the contour runs like in the middle of this deck, but 50 foot is far off from it. Okay. Any other question on this?
Yep, go ahead, carry on.
Okay, this is the the decks, and let me just show the picture. So this deck that is on the blue outline here, the dotted blue, is here. It's drawn here, isometrically to make it look, what it will be after it's built. The lower portion is 14 wide and 12 coming 12 foot out from the house. Upper is coming 14 foot out of the house, and just to give room to this nice spiral stairway. It will look nice. It will make the house nice, and I hope my neighbors will also be happy with it. It will improve the looks. I have actually a door here that goes nowhere right now in the ledger board, so everyone, it seems odd. So obviously, because it was built for this to receive this deck. So that's that, and I have more pictures. So this is the deck on the dotted blue on this side, away from the 50 line, but yes. And that's this. So the plans for this is, if you see the plans, lower deck plan, it's 12 away from the house and 14 wide. And the top is 14 out and 14 wide. It's just to receive this spiral stairway. It's 2 feet out. So it's been accepted by the building department as well as the Board of Health geography, because it's a little close to the septic tank, but it's fine with the helical piles. It's been allowed. And then there's another drawing which shows that. So this is the deck, the blue dotted deck, right? So you want to look at the green dotted deck also. That is here. So this is the green dotted deck. As you see, it's only 7 feet out, 7 feet out from the house. And this is the front side view of it. It's 14 wide, and if you use a scale and all that. And the original proposal was 3 sauna tubes, which we're not using at all now. It'll be helical piles, 3 helical piles to hold it. So it's 14 wide and only 7 deep. Go back to this, that portion, that blue thing that you see here. That's all I want, it's just to complete my house.
Okay, I think it's helpful if we go back to the original drawing, which has the pertinent wetlands line. So if any of the commissioners have any questions, if you can, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Or comments?
Is this application seeking that shed as well? I honestly didn't focus on that part. I focused more on the decks. But the shed in yellow
Yes.
caught me off guard a little bit. Maybe it's in there and I just skipped it.
The shed was really an afterthought because this is an important meeting, and it was an afterthought because if we put the shed on this side, that will be within the 50 feet line and then needs your permission. The reason I thought of putting the shed here, as you see, most of my land is not flat. This is all. I would put the shed here. There are keep outs. You see this is a strip of land that doesn't belong to me, belongs to the 3 Sawyer Lane. So I have a keep out from there. If I keep a keep out from there, it will not be on a slope. Sheds can be built on slopes also, but it's kind of getting close to the septic. I have a vegetable garden already in this corner, and if I put it there, it may not be even of any use to me because I mostly, I have to put a snow blower in it. How will I get a snow blower to my, to my driveway? So this is a good option. This is an option to put it here also, but the land here is terribly unflat. It's again the same problem I will have here.
Right.
So this is relatively flat. That's why I thought asking you, gentlemen, if you would allow, then I would think.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, my point.
So
As a point of order here, I think we need to exclude consideration of the deck. It's just not in the notice of intent. And if the applicant wants to amend the notice of intent to include it, he needs to go forward and do so. But I'm not prepared to contemplate that.
Jace, did you mean the shed?
Or I'm sorry, the shed. Yeah.
Shed, yeah. Well,
I think we also need to carry on with conversations in regards to meeting the waiver as well. So because this would be new activity in the 50-foot.
this one, right. Now I could, to make things easier, let's not do the shed here. I could think of some other spot for it. Maybe I flatten some land here.
We need to keep carrying on with conversations because obviously we have other hearings. So let's entertain comments or questions from the commission because we recognize this is work within the first 50.
So I agree that he should try and move the shed outside of the 50. I think that's something that
it would have to be out of the 100 because it's not mentioned on this notice of intent. If not, as Chase said, he would have to amend it.
Well then, yeah, well, if he can find some place out of the 100.
Okay.
That might be difficult on this piece of property, but.
Okay. So can we, yep, go ahead.
So my question then, I thought do I need the Conservation Commission also to approve it if I wanted somewhere here in this area, which is within 100 then?
Within the 100 foot,
But-
yes.
Yes.
Your
So then,
notice of intent could be amended to incorporate that, though. I think we really need to set that aside. It's not part of the notice of intent right now. We need to focus on and what is part of the notice of intent.
Okay, that's
So we have
my main concern.
2 points of order. One is the green and one is the blue. So Kyle, Andrew, Carl, Brian.
Yeah, I have a quick question. What's the condition exactly where your pointer is right now? What does is that like a manicured lawn? Is it been like allowed to regrow since within the 50, or what does that land look like right now?
It's a manicured lawn. It's a lawn, where grass is planted.
And so it gets mowed typically?
It gets mowed typically. Yeah. All along this gets mowed.
So the blue was part of the notice, and it's
both blue and green.
Blue and green. Yeah. So even though you get the 100 running through it, he's beyond the 50. So I don't think I personally don't have a problem with that. The blue.
Okay.
I agree with that, Carl. I don't take issue with the blue deck necessarily, but I think your biggest challenge, as Sarah mentioned, is going to be meeting the conditions for what's called a waiver. So within the 50-foot buffer zone, Littleton's wetland bylaw, specify certain conditions that need to be met in order to do any work within the 50-foot zone. So I would encourage you to look into that as you progress.
He
So
submitted one. Yeah. It's part of the NOI package, right?
Yeah,
That's what I'm
He
looking at
did
right now.
submit a waiver request.
yeah,
And
I did.
Sorry about that.
To be clear, as part of that waiver request, though, it's not just a consideration of the installation. And you've put forward an argument that helical piles are less invasive than sonotubes. And
Yes.
I can get my head around that. But
Yeah.
but that's not the extent of the considerations with respect to the waiver. It's the structure itself. And does the structure serve a public interest? Is it necessary to avoid a taking? And is it necessary to prevent a safety hazard or water dependence? So not just installation, but the structure itself.
You mean, would it be a safety hazard?
Correct. If something were to not be constructed within the 50 foot, would we introduce a safety hazard? And to be honest, I don't see how this deck serves the public interest. It's obviously not necessary to avoid a taking. The house exists. We're not depriving anyone of the ability to utilize their property. And the structure is not necessary to prevent a safety hazard or water dependence. So I don't see how this meets the requirements for a waiver within the 50-foot buffer.
Sorry, my bad. I didn't quite well understand it, and it's a conservation language. Well, you mean that the deck could be built, or you mean that deck doesn't need to be built?
I'm saying that I'm uncomfortable with this. The nature of the 50-foot buffer and the nature of the town bylaws under which this application was filed is that in order to construct something within the 50-foot buffer, there's a high degree of scrutiny applied to it. And it's got to meet one of those three things in order for the Conservation Commission to be able to approve it. And what I'm saying is that I don't see how it meets the high degree of scrutiny required to construct something within the 50-foot buffer, according to the town bylaws.
Which is like, what do I? The foundation does not erode and cause any erosion at all. Would that be a concern for the wetlands here?
That's a concern. There are a multitude of concerns, though, when we begin to construct. Essentially, the closer we get to a wetland boundary, the more intensive the impacts of a project.
Right.
And that's why we have a high degree of scrutiny within 50 feet, because we find any type of construction there, including relatively simple constructions like covered decks, to be deleterious to wetland function.
Yeah, I honestly have preserved the wetlands as best as I could. I've not even moved a bit of this, as the grass, this hay bale, deteriorated. I put logs here to prevent any, even the grass going there. And this is like, it will make my house look very ugly on this, on this side. And most of my neighbors are complaining, you don't have a deck here because I have a ledger board sticking out. It will mean, and I have a sliding door here, which opens to a deck naturally, but the deck was not built. And I had this request to the town that, I was allowed at that time. I didn't know these deadlines would expire, and then, I would have to seek permit again. But I was given permission once, and I'm also at the same time not even building the whole thing. That was allowed at that time. I'm reducing it significantly. This part I'm not even building, it's just this part. I would humbly request the commission to just let this be constructed, because it's supposed to be part of the building. If you stand here, you will see, how out of place it looks, at least to the aesthetic looks of this place. And it's just not going to create any, it's a bedroom here. So it's not going to create, it's not like a big deck where, the whole family gets together. It's a small deck, 7 feet and some width. This is going to be our family deck.
Okay, I think we need to carry on. Do any other commissioners have any other comments or questions? And so we have the notice of intent in front of us. I think you've heard our comments, our concerns this evening. Is it your wish for us to close this hearing, or would you like to come back and kind of ponder what our thoughts have been that have been presented to you? Or if there's any other commissioners that would like to share input. So what's presented in front of us right now is both decks. Amy, any thoughts on procedure?
Plus, I mean, the shed was mentioned, but there is no plan for the shed. So I don't know if he wants to try to update the notice of intent with additional information on there. And, you know, certainly if the commission, you know, wanted to vote to approve all three, deny all three, approve one, but not the other, you know, that could happen tonight. Or the owner could go back and reconfigure something. I don't know if the green deck can go around the other side of the house. I don't know what the layout.
Other side of the house, meaning where?
Yep.
Around
okay.
the corner.
So, yep.
This,
Any other commissioners have any other questions or comments? So we do have to keep going.
And there were a couple of butters, but I don't see any hands up, so I don't think they have comments.
Okay.
So, I mean, as previously mentioned, I don't see any issue with the blue circle deck, but the green one, it seems like the waiver requirement just, it's not meeting a public health or public safety purpose. So it's kind of a high bar. So you might want to take a look at that a little bit more and then come back to the board with maybe an improved justification.
It's unsafe
or
for me.
Andrew, what you could do is if you wanted to make a suggestion of a motion that accepts one of the proposed decks. So we are at a position here that we need to make some type of headway moving forward.
Well, may I ask you a question? Why was it allowed when I built the house? Why was it allowed that time, even a bigger deck? If that was allowed, why won't be a smaller deck allowed?
To be quite frank, regulations have changed, and I wouldn't say definitively, but your house probably wouldn't be able to be constructed under today's regulations.
No, honestly, if I knew that, I would not even purchase this piece of land. You know, I'm just a taxpayer and a homeowner. I was presented with this as a buildable lot by the town, and that's what I did. Had I known these kind of, I mean, I would not have even designed this deck then. You know, it was a design that was presented to the town and accepted.
Right.
And
I think that what you have to understand with due course that we are here to protect the wetlands, and as building codes change, wetlands protection measures change as well. So
yeah.
I would ask for you as an applicant to make a decision what you would like for us to do going forward. We're happy to close this, or you're welcome to come back as well. So we do have other hearings that we have to keep going on.
Sure. I would say that one thing I would submit, this is a hazard for me, for my family, because there's a slider door here, which we keep shut all the time.
That does not reference for.
You could fall off.
Okay.
Okay, I would, you know what, this project has been really, stymied from the beginning. The contractors, the contract is gone, I mean, he's gonna raise his rate now, and I'm not gonna get this built at all. I would rather not build anything now. I mean, honestly, this is like.
Okay, so
just please. I mean, when do we meet again?
I appreciate that, but we've given you 30 minutes.
Right. But if I come again, when do we come again then? Because I really need to think this over, because this house has been such a horrible thing.
And we're happy to move you forward. Our next hearing is February 8th. So we're just 2 weeks away. So we're happy to table this conversation for the next meeting.
Sure. What would I do in the meantime to convince you that I really have to? I mean, I can show you the pictures of my house, my room on that side.
I think you have to do as
I have to remove that deck.
as Chase mentioned to you, to really review the waiver and see how this would help within the public interest. So that is up to you, but I would encourage you to listen to what the commissioners have given you for feedback this evening. I don't want you to feel as though we're leading you down a line of course that may not meet your needs.
And Sarah, at the risk of extending this a little further, to also note, and I understand applicants aren't always well-versed in parsing the language that we're saying, so I'll try and say it as plainly as I can. There hasn't been a lot of opposition to what you have in the back, the blue circle. So if you were to choose to close this hearing tonight, we would have the choice of saying no to, say, the green and yes to the blue, or no to both potentially, but I don't think there has been a lot of opposition to the blue. So if you wanted to close the hearing, you may not have an opportunity to do the green, but I think the commission would probably contemplate what you have circled in blue. If you were to come back in 2 weeks' time and make an argument that is compelling and within the confines of the waiver, which frankly is an extremely high bar, and it's deliberately set that way for the covered deck in front, we would reconsider that. From my perspective, it's unlikely to change my opinion. I have a hard time seeing how you could clear that high bar. I'm willing to be surprised. So those are your options. Close tonight, vote, probably get something positive moving forward with respect to blue. Maybe not green, come back in 2 weeks and see if you can justify things and potentially move forward with both.
Thank you, Chase.
Chase, he could also change the location of the shed in the 2 weeks too, correct?
Correct. He could amend the notice of intent and alter the location of the shed to incorporate that into your request.
Okay.
Okay,
that sounds
sorry.
fair.
We've been a little bit obtuse, and I think talking in language that we're more comfortable with than applicants are sometimes, and that's a bad habit of ours. And
No, that's fine. That's fine. I understand you are doing your job and you have your own language, so that's fine. So let's meet again on February 8th, and in the meantime, I'll consult with Amy and I will relocate this shed to a more acceptable place, and then and here right now the shed you guys think, you gentlemen and ladies think it's within 50 is kind of harder. Out of 50 is probably a possibility, so I would move it here somewhere.
Okay, great. Amy will contact you and let you know what time on February 8th your hearing will be continued until. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Have a great evening. Yep.
Thank you all.
Yep. Thank you, Amy. So next up is the 8 o'clock remind this is just a project update for a discussion, 9 Air Road, which is Mass DEP 204-898. And I believe, Kyle, are you here to address that?
Yes. So we're here to discuss the subdivision at 9 Air Road. We're going to be purchasing that land and building 4 houses, which was originally proposed. We have improved the site plan. Originally proposed was 2 common drives that access, each 2 individual houses, and we've come up with a new design that has 1 single common drive with a small cul-de-sac up top that accesses each 4 houses well, and it's much more aesthetically pleasing and only gives 1 means of access through the buffer to the land located up top. So we've created that plan and applied for review with the planning board, which we're going to be going to that meeting on February 3rd. And so it was brought to my attention by Amy the idea to come in and discuss a possible amendment to the original order of conditions that would, basically cover the proposed design and discuss plantings and locations, benefits of the new plan compared to the old, and any questions you guys had in regards to that.
Kyle, do you have a plan that you want to share?
Yes. Yeah. So we have the new plan here to share.
And Kyle, while you're waiting to do that, can you update the commission as to the detention basins down on the bottom in terms of if those have been certified or if we've asked for a request for certificate of compliance or anything on those. I'm just not up to speed.
So as of right now, I'm not the owner of the land. I'm just
Okay.
under contract to purchase. So I'm anxious to get this all figured out, closed, and get all that taken care of. Get the ponds created, get them looking nice, get everything working properly catching all the runoff. And so yeah, that my goal is to get through this process hopefully quickly to right in the spring jump on that. But as far as to answer that question, I wouldn't be. There are ponds in place and they are gathering runoff. I drive by when it's during heavy rain and they're not overflowing across the street. They are working at this point, yes. But do they need to be redefined, recreated, and have the plantings added? That's still, is a big piece. So.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to go ahead and go through your screen?
Yeah. So originally you can see so the first driveway furthest to the left. Can you see the screen? Am I doing this right?
Yep. We can
Okay.
see, you might want to enlarge it a little bit, Kyle. Yeah, and so then you can just drag wherever you're talking, you can just drag, and so we can see it better that way.
Yep. So originally proposed where the new proposed access is here was one single common drive the driveway came straight up. The original house was tucked over into the hill here where my mouse is now. And there was a driveway that came off to the left of that. And then beyond it continued to a house that was located in this back corner, right about here where my mouse is. And then the second driveway came through this way towards the high school end, I guess we'll say, right on the other side of this telephone pole where my mouse is here, straight up. Again, similar, there was a driveway that went to the left to a house here, and then there was another house right off to the side here that was tucked into the slope. And then proposed plantings, everything. So there was a pond here. This pond is staying exactly the same as original plan. This pond is very similar in size. It's actually slightly larger. And then we've eliminated this driveway. So we've created more areas for possible plantings or, any sort of even extending that pond larger. But in this drawing, we've actually taken into consideration all the way up to 100-year storm to show that the drainage would work and would be able to handle that sort of capacity. So, and this plan actually provides, it's not a drastic difference, but this gives much less runoff actually than the original plan, being as how it comes up as one. A lot of the runoff will dissipate into the ground because it's gravelly material as discussed in the stormwater report. And this actually is less runoff towards the buffer than the original proposed plan.
Mr. Mann, what if I suggested that this would also have the effect of concentrating the runoff on the sheet flow on the surface?
I'm sorry, could you say that?
What if I were to suggest that I'm concerned that the fact that it's now, in a single paved surface, we've actually concentrated the amount of flow from runoff on the single driveway as opposed to what we had before, which is two driveways.
Yeah. So to that, I would understand that thought, and to that say, in a development like this where everything is sheeting in one single direction, the ponds are the big piece, and we've created a little bit more volume for water. So the concentration would be, at the end of the day, the water's going to end up exactly in the same spot, which would be in these ponds rather than across the street. So this plan, like I said, take into consideration one driveway rather than two. This is less runoff, so therefore I would see it as only an improvement. And it gets the water to the ponds just the same as proposed, I guess. Yeah, in a more direct manner. How that would affect the wetlands or the buffer, I'm not sure, but the ponds would still do their job and keep the runoff from crossing the street and going to the wetlands. And this plan actually, like I said, provides less runoff. So therefore, whether it's a little bit more defined, it is an improvement, and does still get the water to the ponds just the same.
So help me understand then the rationale for expanding the volume of the pond if you're arguing it generates less runoff.
So we could bring the pond back to original size if you think that would be best and create more room for plantings. So it's just we really kind of trying to go over what's going to be most aesthetically appealing and what would look nice, and plantings and ponds and what works best. So we could.
That sounded more adversarial than I meant. So you're proposing to expand the size of the ponds, not from a flow and capacity standpoint, but
just aesthetically to make what's down there work best. The plans are not being enlarged due to more capacity. Like I said, this plan in the stormwater report, which I had sent a copy over to Amy, this plan provides less runoff, therefore essentially would need less volume. We're not giving less volume, but the ponding size and everything like that is strictly just what would look best there by the street and in the wetlands buffer. It's not due to more capacity.
Right. So Kyle, and I think that's why we appreciate you coming in and having discussions so that you can hear feedback now going forward. Obviously we care about aesthetics, but our main priority is to the wetlands and to make sure that we're doing our job on the project as well.
Yeah. And obviously I'm taking this project over from another builder. So, where it's at now, I've had no part of, and I'm just, looking to clean it up and do what's gonna look nice and what's gonna work well.
Kyle, this is Carl. Hey, so this is the site that had the gravel removed, correct? I was trying to get clear.
Yes, 9 Air Road. Yes.
Okay, so the gravel operation is complete.
No more gravel is going to be being removed from that site. Yeah, now it's at the elevation proposed for these four bedroom homes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Kyle, why don't you carry on and take us up the road and let us know kind of positioning of houses and such.
Yep. So in this situation, actually, too, these two houses are very similar to the original proposed plan. Proposed was 3 houses, one where this is here, another here, and another here, directly in a line. And then this plan, I've actually shifted this house, which is actually lot 1, where my mouse is now. This has been pushed back substantially in the property. In this new plan, actually, we won't be proposed. So in the original drawing with the houses all in a line across where my mouse is moving now, the septic systems would all have been individual and in the front yard. In this proposed plan, I'm actually planning on doing a common system, which is located in this far back right corner where my mouse is now. So each one of these houses will only have just an individual septic tank and pump chamber, which will end up with all the effluent leaching material in this field in the back corner. So we've pushed that back, as far as the property as we can out of the zoning. I think there was some sort of zoning in the front here, but so the septic system's as far back as we can keep it from any wetlands, buffer, plantings, and the elevation of that's not changing. That's going to remain flat in the ground, so that's not going to be a slope of any means. And then this house here on lot number 3 is actually in a very similar location to the original proposed plan. So we've shifted this house back substantially on lot 1, and then lot 2 and lot 4. These are very similar in location. Well, not exact location, but in depth on the property, I guess, per se, as the original plan was. So, and then, we have this proposed circle, which runoff, I through the stormwater report, runoff will end up dissipating to the ground there. So the majority of the runoff that we're looking at is from this slope here, which is, so we have a 3% slope from 30 feet up the street back, and then it goes to 10% to about where my mouse is now here, and then levels out substantially and remains fairly level all the way to the backside of the property. So the majority of the runoff would be from the roadway coming down through here. Everything else is going to basically remain on site and dissipate into the gravel. So, I mean, I guess we had looked at this plan as an improvement just due to that reason. Less runoff, one single driveway in, so we have more room for plantings to be proposed, and less impact on the 100-foot buffer. And I think we're only in the 100-foot buffer. So, yeah.
So Kyle, I'm sure that you have a good engineer that's guiding you, but like even to look in your circle to have like recharge areas up top as well to try and keep as much water up top as possible.
Yeah. So through the stormwater report, I mean, the runoff in this type of material and in this flat area is not an issue. Like I said, they had taken into consideration the lay of the entire land and did a whole stormwater report for all the way up to 100-year storm, 100-year event. So they took into consideration all of that, and not a lot of water ends up off site, in any aspect. Not a lot of runoff in any of the storms, really, just due to the material and the fact that the upper portion of the site is remaining very flat, or is now flat, now that the gravel has been removed. Obviously, the slopes around the edges and everything were taken into consideration, the entire site. So,
But in the
yeah, they
original-
guided me in that. They did the stormwater report. That wasn't not my forte, but I have that in front of me here, and I had sent that on to Amy as well. I can probably share that report with you somehow. Oh, it's on a different screen. Sorry.
Yeah, because I think all I have is the stormwater management memorandum, the summary, not the whole new report. I have the old report that Dillis and Roy did for the original filing.
But that's okay. This is just a discussion time anyway, so we're
Yeah.
good.
So
It's just a time that if there's
that's correct,
other
Amy.
things
That what I sent you is all that I have. So I'm looking now at the old report as well, and it is quite a bit more involved. But there was a table showing runoff on the plan that I sent you, and all the different events. So.
And I guess relative to what was put forward, just in terms of, I generally agree, Mr. Mann, that this probably is an improvement, but I do have some concerns that I think we're going to need to validate if we make a change. One of them is that additional flow and how that's managed. And I'm equally as concerned about flow along in the swale along the road. And certainly that's outside of the resource area. So I'm only evaluating it from a Conscom perspective, but my perspective or my thought there is that if we're concentrating the flow within these swales, are we similarly concentrating and accelerating, speeding up the water so that we're actually transporting more sediment into the resource area, as opposed to allowing a grassy swale, which typically captures low flow sediment within the swale itself? Are we accelerating some of that because of concentrating the driveways? The second concern I have is now that the site has been excavated and disturbed, it's one thing to develop a stormwater plan based on what we think it's going to be. The other thing that I would really sort of challenge here is the assumptions about infiltration rates, and especially the infiltration basins at the bottom of the hill within the 100-foot buffer. And are we really going to see the infiltration? Because happens every freaking time we do an infiltration basin. The infiltration basins never ever perform the way that the engineers indicate that they're supposed to, and that's going to be a problem on the site. And then I guess the third thing is these changes, in my mind anyway, comment to the commission is I certainly wouldn't object to having a peer review take a look at this. It doesn't need to be a line by line calculation type peer review, but I do think it's complex enough with severe enough implications that it would make sense to.
Yeah, I'm anticipating that the planning board will also want a peer review on that. So,
Okay.
a peer review is definitely an acceptable thought. I don't expect you guys to just take a look at this and say, "Yep, it's going to work." But as far as everything, I just want to correct it. There's no increased flow here. This is actually less flow than the plan that is originally approved.
Less aggregate flow. What I'm talking about are the channels along the road, right? And what you indicated is that most of the flow from the front third of the site flows down to those infiltration basins.
No, sorry, I want to correct myself on that. Asphalt paved areas, not the entire front part of the property. So in this type of material and in this grade, this slope, a lot of the water landing in the impervious area, the grassed area, so would be that would mostly dissipate into the ground. That water is really not going to be channeling into these ponds per se.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially we have one driveway. We have one driveway that gathers water instead of two. That's what I'm looking at here, and we can look at the ponds that are in place now, which have received little to no maintenance. I'd say no maintenance, and those are actually still working in collecting the runoff from the property, and they're not overflowing into the street. So I'm proposing a plan that's completely grassed. These darker lines here on each side of the driveway are proposed check dams to slow down sediment, stop sediment from getting to the ponds, slow down runoff. So that would decrease the speed that you're thinking of running down the slope. But essentially, this plan provides one rapid rate of what I say rapid. It's really not rapid. It's a proposed driveway, so it's not even as wide as a street.
It's a 10% slope. You're not going to convince me it's not rapid.
Well, either way, there's only one rather than two, so I see that as a great improvement. But how you're looking at it, I'm not sure. But like I said, a peer review is definitely acceptable. I would say so that we could be on the same page.
You can't compare the amount of water that's reaching the retaining area right now because of it's all basically gravel. So it's going into that. It's going to change quite a bit with 4 houses, 4 driveways, and a road.
Yeah. So this provides much less paved area. This is a massive improvement from what I have explained, the originally approved plan that was discussed. This is much less paved area, similar size houses, and gives a lot more options in the buffer for plantings and things to be discussed.
And there, I think we'll find a lot of agreement for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to come to this meeting to work with you guys and essentially come to the agreement that this plan, is an improvement because it does provide less runoff in the stormwater report, and I'm sure will be found out through your peer review as well. And then just discuss options you guys would like to see in the buffer. I think it's pretty clear that this plan is an improvement to the original. So from there, that's why I was hoping to amend the original order of conditions and discuss, planting options and things like that to do inside the buffer. And then obviously outside the buffer too, I'll have a mature line of trees. Well, not mature, but reasonable sized plantings that will grow into mature trees. So this site, as you probably know, lost a ton of trees. There was I can't even imagine the number of trees that were lost at this site. Part of what we look at, especially nowadays, because we have lost so many trees in the town, is trying to get those replaced as much as we possibly can. Maybe you can't replace some of those mature trees that were taken out. Those trees weren't mature one day. So essentially what's planted, I would hope would become mature and a nice looking tree one day. It does take 10 years or so to get a decent 8-inch trunk, but these will grow into mature, nice looking trees, and I'm going to set up the planting to accommodate that and to be that way. So the original land was very steep off to the street. And up top, I'm not sure if you were up there prior to construction, but it was a field area. There were trees up there, but it wasn't the flat portion up top was by no means a heavily wooded area. It was a field, and then around the edges there were mature trees that were taken down. How many, I'm not sure, but it wasn't a thickly wooded area up top by any means.
Okay, are there any other commissioners that have any questions or comments?
One other thing to note, just to put on Mr. Mann's radar, I think if this is amended, I'd certainly be interested in your thoughts on snow storage and so on.
Yeah,
not something you need to address today, but just
yeah, we're in the process of addressing that, and more than less wanted to come to this meeting to see, if an amendment was possible given the circumstances of the similarity of the plans and the improvement that this one actually is. What you guys would like to see plotted inside the buffer, suggestions you would have that we could have on the plan and discuss, and hopefully, take care of in the next meeting, that all the plans are completed, and we'll have a new plan for plantings as well to bring to the meeting.
Kyle, what's your time frame with your meeting with the planning board first?
Yeah, so we're meeting with the planning board on February 3rd. Dillis and Roy, who I'm working with these drawings, they're working on a plan that provides snow storage for that meeting, so that can be discussed with the planning board as well. So we're going to work to get everything to Amy as quick as possible. I'm not sure if we'll have it all together to get on for the next meeting, because I think we do have to notify butters and everything like that, or since it's an amendment, is that not necessary?
To be honest, with respect to the next, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That's actually why I had my hand up. That was kind of the point of this discussion, is how does the commission want to move forward with the permitting of this? It's, from what I'm hearing, certainly more than a red line change. So that means it's either an amended order condition or a new notice of intent, both of which would do the whole abutter notification and newspaper ad and the whole 9 yards for that. Either way, it's kind of messy. Having a new order conditions on top of an existing order conditions is not a great thing.
So
Now, is this beyond a red line change? Okay.
So my 2 cents on this, Amy, is that in some ways it's a completely different project, because although it was proposed with 4 houses, we were totally unaware that there was going to be a gravel operation there. That was never told to us, and took us by complete surprise. So in my mind, just with all the changes, it's a completely different project.
So the plan remained the same. Any discussion prior to this immediate discussion, I had never been involved in. I don't know what was proposed to you. I do know that there was a plan that provided everyone with elevations in regards to existing and proposed. So whenever and however that was discussed with you, I'm at the point that the project is in now is where I have become involved. And since taking the original plan, which I did not think was a good plan, and improved it. And that's why I'm here to discuss that with you. So anything prior to this immediate meeting, I cannot attest to.
And that's fine, but we have to look at what was proposed.
Which was that original plan, I believe.
Yeah, and now we have to, now we have to look at what you're proposing and then compare the two.
Yeah, so the elevations are the same between the proposed and my plan as far as the final grading goes. The elevation that the houses will be set at is very similar. my project's actually going to be much less sloping. The original plan had provided some walkout basements with the houses tucked into the hills, and it actually proposed quite a bit more grading, not inside the buffer, but it was steeper coming down from these houses here on lot number. So no, lot number 1 was down here more. And that had a
I think
walkout.
my questions are, the structures that have been built and that are in place, and if there's discovery that's needed to make sure that they're built properly. So we look at the longevity of those basins as well. So, and it's just hard because you're taking over something that's already been built, not under your watch. And so I
Right.
think that we're concerned ultimately when everything is said and done and houses are sold, that these basins are still going to be able to be healthy within the buffer zone. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to construct them in that way.
Right.
So this is
So-
going to be a completely grassed site, and the runoff is going to be directed towards the basins which will be constructed exactly as proposed.
Well, we're hoping it's not going to be all grass because then people are going to want to mow it. So we're hoping that there may be sections that can be naturalized back as well, which will help with your drainage. So I guess we're coming back to the original question. Are you thinking to come back on for February 8th to give us an update from your planning, or do you want to move out time from that?
So I guess if we could just backpedal just a second from there to Amy's question of, are we going to be amending this plan, or that was kind of the purpose of Amy mentioned an order of conditions over an order of conditions isn't the best. I would like to make the process obviously, I would like to make the process as seamless and easy as possible, but I just wanted to touch on that to know which direction to head in with Dillis and Roy and all that.
I'm guessing that whichever direction you go, the information you have to provide is going to be the same level of effort. The drainage, probably an overlay of what was proposed before and what you're doing now. I don't think that's going to make a difference whether it's a new notice of intent or an amended order condition.
Yeah, because at that point, I'd say, what's the point in comparing? We're starting fresh, I'd say. If we're doing a whole new order of conditions, I guess the original plan wouldn't even matter.
I'm actually kind of with you there, Mr. Mann, and that it doesn't matter. What matters is what's going to be constructed.
Right. So we were
It
trying to
doesn't
make the
function.
process as easy as possible to get these ponds created, get these plantings in, and get this completed, and avoid 2 order conditions on one single project.
Because suddenly you would have an old order conditions that was never finished. And somehow they'd have to get a certificate of compliance. If the commission is amenable, I could either call DEP or town council and to see if they see hazards going one way or the other. Again, I think the level of information is probably about the same.
Yeah, and I'll provide you with planting plans. And I think that the old plan compared to this plan is important. That's why I don't want to step away from that and say let's start fresh, because I've created this plan which I believe is a great improvement. And just hoping that we can move forward with this rather than go through the whole entire thing, amend and move forward and get these ponds completed as quick as possible, and get everything in place here.
I think I agree with you to an extent in that this is an improvement. But what I don't want the commission to lose sight of is that we should evaluate this revised plan on its own merits, even if it is an improvement over the old plan.
Yeah, and understandably so, because this is going to be the one that's constructed. So this would be the primary point of discussion here. But obviously the improvement is why we'd say, hey, can we amend this plan due to we're not impacting the wetlands negatively in any way further. We're actually improving the design.
That said, in terms of the timing of the filing, the only downside I see to a new filing is maybe a little bit of delay associated with getting the file number. However, in this circumstance where the applicant is anticipating that the planning board will request a peer review, I don't think those delays are the critical path. The critical path is really going to be the peer review process. So I'm really good with either approach as long as we get the content that we need to evaluate.
So I think, Kyle, just perhaps ponder it. I think what you're hearing is that commissioners may be interested in the cleaner path of a new filing, but perhaps talk with Amy and let us know. I don't know if the timing still allows for us to put you on for the 8th as well. But
Yeah.
we look
I
forward.
mean, timing is, I mean, in a way, I guess, you know, I'm not going to be out there digging in 2 feet of snow or in frost. You know, just I guess to have everything mesh and work better paperwork wise. And,
Yeah. Okay.
You could make a filing in time for the 8th anyway.
Right. So I think the 8th was just
do tomorrow.
more of a discussion for him to come back and let us know how things went with planning board as well. So I think perhaps just to hold off and communicate with Amy what path you want to do going forward.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
we appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, no, thank you for your time. And and next, you know, the next meeting that I come to, well, I'll be able to provide you with more, you know, planting drawings and
Right.
things like that. So
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
thanks.
Okay, 8:51, opening the 8:15 continued public hearing, notice of intent.
Yeah, which way?
Mass DEP 204-948, the transmission lines. So Amy had sent on to the commissioners the draft of the order of conditions. So there had been some amendments to that, but look forward to presentation of that and to go through some of those comments as well. Who would like to speak to this evening?
Good evening. This is Allison Millman from BSC Group. Also, we have Andrew Cole from New England Power with us this evening.
Good evening.
May I please share my screen?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Can the commission see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so there was one outstanding request to the mapping, which we've updated, and that's for that stream crossing that's located off of Blood Road. We did remove that matted crossing that was originally proposed. We added this call out. Let me zoom in here if I can read that so the commission can read it on their screens, hopefully. That states if wetland stream crossing is necessary, further permitting with Littleton Conservation Commission will be required. And we also added the potential off right-of-way access on Blood Road, as well as this potential access coming in through the agricultural property associated with that parcel. There was also a request to provide some photos of some previously used secondary containment for equipment associated with New England Power activities. So we have some different pieces of equipment here shown with impermeable secondary containment barriers that were previously used for other projects. Let's give this one a little bit to open up. All right, let's try this one. Here's one that was specifically placed on a drill rig for another project with white plastic poly. It was placed completely underneath the rig for a location staged in buffer zone, riverfront area. You can see here, this is the wetland flag showing its proximate location to the resource area and the use of secondary containment for storage overnight. I have more pictures if they're interested in seeing more pictures of secondary containment. Or
I think some of the commissioners are familiar with that. I'm okay with that. Are there commissioners that would like to see more? Okay, Allison, proceed.
Okay, and then we've provided, excuse me, red line comments on the order of conditions, draft order conditions that was provided to us. Andrew and I reviewed, and we had some comments on just a couple of the conditions. PC5, which required that members and agents have the right to enter and inspect the premises, which we agree upon, but we are requesting a 24-hour notice, and that PPE is worn due to National Grid safety requirements for active work zones. So that would be hard hat, safety vest, safety toe shoes, and safety glasses. And then we ask that any members and agents who do approach an active work zone request a safety tailboard prior to entering and signing off.
So if we can stop right there and just chat about that, Allison, if
Certainly.
we have notice of infraction, or if there's something happening on the site, we would not have 24 hours notice. So I don't know how the commissioners feel about that, but if something is observed off property or close by, we typically are asked to act, especially if it's something that's impacting potential leak or something in the wetlands. So I think we absolutely agree to PPP, and especially if it's an active site, I agree with that. But if something were to occur on a Friday afternoon and no one gets back to us and we just leave a message, I think you have to really talk about what 24-hour notice means. Does that mean someone has to actually acknowledge the message that we have left?
I can jump in, Allison. It doesn't have to be acknowledged. It could just be an email, a phone call, a message. Just leave it at that. We could amend this language to correct that, to make it so it's just the email, and leave it at that. And it would be a contact environmental monitor myself.
I'm sorry, would that be with 24-hour notice or just notice?
Just a notice given. It would be preferred that it's 24 hours notice, but like the chairwoman was stating, if it was an infraction occurring, or an abutter calling in, something like that, I understand that. Really, it's just a safety consideration, knowing people on the regular list.
And we certainly appreciate that, because we deal with MBTA and others as well. But if you would like to amend this now, if not, we would still have to come back for another meeting. So we've already gone through some of this, but I would like to be able to finish this discussion this evening with language that the commission accepts and acknowledges. So if someone would like to strike that and write what the commissioner feels is appropriate, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward, right? We strike 24-hour notice, so long as notice is given. Full stop. With the understanding that we'll strive for 24 hours, but we...
Right. So Allison, do you want to make this change, or Andrew, who wants to be the one that gets to be the wordsmith?
I'll do it. Everyone can see my screen, so it's pretty
Yeah, thank you.
transparent.
I also wanted to
awesome.
bring up the PPE requirement. I mean, there's so much PPE in my trunk that it's not an issue for me. I'm a little worried about requiring conservation commissioners who may not have, $150 safety toe shoes available. My expectation is the applicant would be prepared to provide hard hat, safety vest, and safety glasses. And my expectation would be that the applicant would be willing to shut down the equipment such that safety shoes weren't necessary, if that was the impediment to a commissioner evaluating the site.
Yeah, you took exactly what I was going to say, Chase. I mean, if there was a reason for one of us to be needing to visit the site, I think it would likely be required that work should stop anyway. I mean, if we're going out there, there's a reason, right? It's not just to go check out a drill rig and see how things are going. So I would think it would be understood that work would be halted while we're out there, on top of the gear issue.
So, Ms. Millman, what I'm proposing is that you strike safety toe shoes from that, and hard hat, safety vest, and safety shoes to be provided by applicant as necessary.
That's fine. Yep, I agree with that.
I hate to be pedantic. It feels a little bit that way, but I do think it's important.
Well, I was wondering about that too, because I got that stuff, but I assume most of you don't, especially rattling around the back of your car.
I have none of those things.
Oh, bag of hard hats.
Conservation actually has some of those things for you, Andrew. So whenever you need them, they're there. Hard hats, vests, safety glasses, all those things are there. Maybe
No
not
vests.
your steel-toed shoes. Okay. All right, let's carry on.
Okay, the next one is C6A, biodegradable fuels, hydraulic fuels will perform work and travel through resource areas. This seems to be a change that was provided by another commission member. I think Andrew and I both reviewed this and didn't have any further comments on that. C6.
Sorry, it was something that I had added. We had this discussion. I think Chase initially brought it up. So during our review, we had added that. So thank you.
Okay. Drill rigs may be left on the swamp mat drill base if that area will take more than 1 day to complete, and will be secured with secondary containment left overnight. So what we struck here is, but shall not be left more than 2 days or over a weekend. I guess our question is, why would overnight versus more than 1 night, if there is proper secondary containment in place, be a concern?
So I think, and I was the one that wrote this, I think originally it was more than 2 nights and over a weekend when there's not working observation on site. So that was my concern, that hypothetically something happens on a Friday night, there's inclement weather on the weekend, no one's there on the site on Monday. We've now gone potentially 3 days where there could have been a breach in your containment area. So, and this is only when you're in a resource area. So I do not feel comfortable with this strike, but I can be swayed.
Can I ask the applicant a question here? Realistically and practically, how long would you anticipate a particular boring or a particular area requiring equipment to be in a single location?
So where we have locations where we have multiple borings within a resource area, they may, move 1 to 2 days is typical for each bore location, but we may have 2 bore locations in the same proximate area in a resource area. So then now we're looking at, perhaps 4 days. If the work is Thursday to Friday and then, the contractor takes off for the weekend, what we're saying is they'd have to move their equipment, every single time before the end of the weekend and then have to track it back to the location to continue their work on a Monday morning.
I share the chair's concern, but I also have a concern about the impacts associated with tracking equipment back.
Exactly.
So I wonder if there's a balance that we can strike here with 5 days or something like that, that achieves the objective of the chair's modifications. That is, we're not talking about an indefinite period.
And I'm agreeable to modification, just finding some time. I just don't want, if all of a sudden something comes through, there's hurricane, tornado, and then all of a sudden the site is down for multiple days and no one's there to monitor. That's truly my concern.
Right, I agree. It's not necessarily a duration that needs to go in there or be worded out somehow, because if you're, like you said, Ms. Milliman, if you're there for 5 straight days, you're actively going to be at the rig every day, right? So you're observing what's going on. But when you walk away on a Friday afternoon, you're gone for the weekend and you don't know what's going to happen over the weekend. Like Sarah just said, if we get a storm, if you happen to do this during the winter and snow, whatnot, all of a sudden that's the major concern, is not having eyes on the even a secondary containment. That's great that it'll be installed, but with weather, wind, rain, snow, not seeing it on a daily basis is our main concern.
And that might be the language, Kyle, is that during unmonitored periods that extend, fill in the blank. So for me, it's the unmonitored time.
Okay, how about what if we put something in there as far as foreseen, force majeure events such as hurricanes, major rain events, something like that, that the contractor will remove all equipment from resource areas with the anticipation it will be left idle for an extended period of time without something of that nature? Would that be?
I think that's fine as long as force majeure covers workers walking off a site or a strike or something like that as well, that's more of act of God.
Yeah, force majeure doesn't typically cover strikes. And so
Just call it unattended for more than 72 hours or something?
Yep. Yeah, I think it just boils down to the monitoring.
Okay.
I don't think I think we can simplify this now that we've just kind of heard our concern.
Because could that just mean that if it's going to be more than 72 hours, someone just needs to go check on things?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And that addresses my concern about tracking equipment back and forth.
Yep. Perfect.
Yep, I agree.
Compromise. Thank you.
And Allison, when you get a chance, can you expand that a little bit?
Sure. I'm just trying, let me just try and draft
Yeah.
this for you guys, and then
Yeah.
I'll make it bigger, and then we can talk about it. All right. Then we left to raise inspection will be.
It's kind of like when you're looking over someone's shoulder and they're typing.
Oh,
No, back
yeah,
up,
you'll
back
see
up.
how poor of a typer I am.
There's no pressure here.
And obviously you and Amy can kind of go through this if it needs to be tweaked tomorrow, but I just wanted the general concepts to be down that everyone felt comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Doesn't have to be perfect.
Like I said, I still got to renumber and format stuff, so.
All right. I'm zooming in. How's that? For size wise. Okay. No overnight parking or storage of construction vehicles is allowed in resource areas or buffer zones unless specified in the plans for the order of conditions. Drill rigs may be left on the swamp mat drill base if that area will take more than 1 day to complete and will be secured with secondary containment when left overnight. If the drill rig would be left in a resource area for longer than 72 hours, an inspection will be completed to confirm the secondary containment is in place and operational. Something like that. This is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the equipment will need to be moved outside of the resource area if not to be monitored within 72 hours.
Sounds like that's got it.
Enough of a gist of the.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let me save this. All right. So we don't have a SWIP, obviously, because we don't really have soil disturbance so much. We are committing to the once a week inspections. And then I see here there's a requirement, significant storms, 1 inch or greater within a 24-hour period, or sustained rainfalls in the course of 72 hours. I just think we should strike any discussion of SWIP here. But I think we agree. Andrew agreed that we could make sure that we get out there and do a site inspection after the 1 inch rain events. And the environmental monitor at this point in time will be BSC Group. If there's changes to that, Andrew and I will provide a resume for the Conservation Commission's approval.
Yeah, I think there was a condition in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So does the commission approve the removal of SWIP wording?
Well, there is no SWIP, so.
Yeah, there's no SWIP.
Right,
It
so
makes
that's
sense.
what So we need to go ahead and amend that now then. Yep.
Okay. So we did provide our BMPs as far as documenting how materials, drill cuttings, things of that nature will be stored on mats and resource areas overnight. So that's what I'm assuming the associated documents references here. I think this comment was from Kyle. And is that sufficient of what we had provided for protection and containment when materials are stored on mats in resource areas overnight?
Right. Yeah, I was just looking for that
Okay.
clarification that those BMPs would be followed.
Okay. This was one that I thought we had talked about already at the hearing, one of the hearings, but Due to the temporary nature of the activities and the temporary nature of the disturbance and the fact that they will be stabilizing and mulching after that soil boring is completed, I had recommended that we not require permanent sediment controls, but otherwise have more temporary sediment controls that can be moved from location to location, since after erosion controls are implemented, that there really shouldn't be any concern with the small amount of disturbed soil associated with the soil boring that would require sediment controls to remain along the right of way until we get approval from the commission to remove them.
I'm not opposed to this in principle, with if we could add the qualifier, something like unless directed by the Conservation Commission or the monitor. And I envision a scenario where the equipment has, really chewed up an area because of rainfall events or something, and it's a broader impact. So, if everything goes well, I think this is reasonable. But if things go sideways a little bit, we don't want an explicit expectation that no controls are necessary.
Oh, let's see. All right, so what I did here for your consideration, unless directed by the Environmental Monitor and or Conservation Commission due to the temporary impact and short-term activities, same language. If necessary, sediment controls as directed by Monitor and the Conservation Commission will remain in place until site stabilization is achieved, 75% vegetative cover.
I appreciate that. That makes me more.
So I'm not sure if you need the 75% vegetative cover, because some of those areas aren't going to be vegetated, like the existing roads on slopes and stuff like that.
Okay.
So you might not be getting 75%. You could even just say such as 75%. Yeah. So that would replace the stuff that's highlighted in yellow, correct? Or
Yes, because that was our concern, that we'd have to keep all these sediment controls kind of hanging around on the right of way until we got our certificate of compliance or approval to remove them.
okay, yes.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. You weren't asking me.
No, I wasn't asking you. I think we're okay.
Okay. All right. And then this one, 2 sets of as-built plans for the project drawn by PE. The plans themselves weren't prepared by PE. So I think in this case, I think we'll just have to submit the plan set documenting that adherence to the access and boring locations were completed. These aren't engineering stamp plans, so I would be able to get a PE to stamp a GIS drawing.
Okay, can I make one suggestion? And it just pertains that if we have to do a stream crossing back in that one area where I know if we have to do it, you have to come back and I think the language covers this in the earlier segments, is that if we have to do that crossing, we would need really more in-depth information in terms of obviously vegetation, elevations as well. So that is the only one that I really foresee that if we had to go to that next step, we would need something engineered. But I think that's covered early on, but that was my only question.
There was a condition up here about requiring engineering design for a stream crossing.
Mm-hmm. No,
No, I think it basically
No,
just said that we're not
it's-
approving it.
we're not approving it.
Okay, okay.
So, but I just want it understood that if you do have to come back, that this is one of those expectations that would be in there. It's not like a red line change.
Yep, I understand.
Okay, thank you.
That completes our comments on the draft order.
And I will say on that purple pink CX about the as-built that is written with the intent that, if someone has just gone in and given us a hand-drawn location of a shed, that's what they need to do. So that would cover you, that you don't need a registered PE architect unless the original plan was done by a PE architect.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Okay, any of the commissioners have any other questions or comments?
No, I'm good.
Looks good.
Okay, so we would need a motion for the acceptance of these as written, if someone would like to do that.
Well, actually, I guess just to move and issue the waiver and.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yep. True. Yep, so we need to back up a step. And we would reference the Mass DEP number on that as well. Anyone like to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing and issue a notice of intent for K137/L138 and 337 transmissions line right away, Mass DEP number 2040948, as well as a waiver pending the changes to the notice of intent that we've gone over tonight.
Second. Brian got
I
it.
think Andrew got that.
Oh, Andrew got that?
I didn't even say anything, actually.
That was me, Amy.
Sorry.
Photo finish.
All those in favor, Carl Melberg, aye. Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Kyle Maxfield,
I'll Maxwell aye.
Brian Crowley,
Ryan Crowley, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Chase Gerbig,
Just for a big guy.
unanimous.
Thank you, Amy. I'll send these.
Andrew.
I'll send this draft over to you, and we'll get you some hard copy of those maps for the file.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Thank you for working with us.
Good night.
luck.
You're welcome.
That concludes the agenda. Is anything else for discussion? It's 9:08. Amy, do you have anything else?
I do not. I
We
don't
will
think I
not
do.
see, we will not see you for a while.
Yay.
So-
Sorry, but yay.
There should be no sorry involved with that, Amy.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing personal.
We'll just look forward to the DocuSign tomorrow for this. So I thank everybody for their time and efforts for that. I know that was a little laborious.
DocuSign tomorrow, right, Chase?
Or, next week or the week after. Hey, I get to him eventually.
So that was why I got that late one today. It came in my inbox. I was like, wait, what did I miss? What did something get approved that I don't know.
It scared me too.
Keeping you on your toes.
So it's 9:18. If there's someone that would like to make a motion to conclude the meeting.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, Carl Melberg, aye. Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Kyle Maxfield,
I'll Maxwell aye.
Brian Crowley,
Ryan Crowley, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Chase Gerbig.
He's already pieced out.
I said aye.
Saw the-
Did you?
I saw the-
I said aye.
Yeah,
Very
lips
aye.
moves, but I didn't
Definitely
hear.
aye. I'm good with this.
He wants to hang out.
That's awesome. Everybody be careful we're going to get a storm, I think, on Friday. So everybody be careful and have a great week. Thank you, everybody.
Andrew, you can take
Everybody.
over your job next time.